As viewers would note, today we debated, amongst other things in the National Assembly, a motion brought to the House by Annette Ferguson from the APNU AFC, purporting to raise the issue of affordability of house lots in Guyana. In presenting her arguments in the usual APNU AFC style, she offered no credible suggestions whatsoever that would be of practical use in relation to expanding and accelerating the housing program and improving the ease and affordability with which applicants for house lots might be able to access their house lots. She did also make a number of outlandish claims which we feel necessitate a response. So, for example, she made the outlandish suggestion that house lots should be shared out, house lots or houses should be shared out for free. Needless to say, this is an absurd proposition which needs to be answered. As viewers would know, we have been investing very aggressively in the housing program. In fact, even in the previous PPP government, under the leadership of then Minister of Housing, Minister Irfan Ali, now President Irfan Ali, we rolled out the most aggressive housing program in the history of the country and the most aggressive housing program across the entire Caribbean, creating entire new communities, Diamond, Grove, Parfait, Harmony, Tushen, and so many others, Good Hope, so many others, in all three of our counties. We have now ramped up that program since returning to office under President Ali's presidency. We have now ramped up that program even more aggressively. Again, building out entire new housing areas, building out infrastructure, rolling out turnkey homes at all levels of the market, middle income, low income, young professionals, remigrants, offering solutions for every sub-segment, or every segment rather, in the market. It's important to emphasize, in fact, that in order to roll out this accelerated program, we are already heavily subsidizing the cost of these solutions. In fact, for a house lot with infrastructure, the purchaser of that house lot probably pays less than 1/5 of the cost of developing the infrastructure, given the cost associated with clearing the land, marking out the land, putting in place the streets, the roads, the utilities, etc. So much so that if you look at how much we're investing in the sector, we're already investing in excess of, if you look at our total investment for housing infrastructure, we're already investing in excess of 1/3 of all of our oil revenue into the housing sector, with a view of aggressively making more house lots available and making more Guyanese families able to access their house lots. Secondly, she made the completely absurd argument that there's some degree of ethnic bias in the award of contracts and the procurement process. Let me say that it's the APNU AFC that was so blatant in dismantling the competitive procurement process. In fact, it's the PNC that did not have a public procurement process prior to 1992. We took to Parliament the Procurement Act. We established the entire architecture for public procurement. It is the APNU AFC that completely dismantled the public procurement architecture that we had put in place prior to 2015. And immediately upon them assuming office, completely dismantled the procurement system, no longer engaging in competitive procurement, selective awarding of contracts, etc. And I will say this, that if you look, having returned to office, the PPP has reinstituted and once again implemented public open competitive procurement processes. And very significantly, if you look at the demographics of the contractors that are now being awarded contracts, you would see, in fact, that every single contractors from every single region, contractors of every single ethnic background and religious background. Today, the suppliers of goods and services to the government reflect the fullest of diversity of our country, more diversity than at any other time previously, and certainly in striking contrast to what obtained during 2015 to 2020. In fact, you know, if you think about it, the number of Afro-Guyanese businesses that were brought to their knees and that were destroyed during the APNU AFC years, and there are several examples that readily come to mind. I don't want to highlight people's names individually, but the number of Afro-Guyanese businesses that were destroyed during the APNU AFC years because of their mismanagement of the economy. Today, many of those businesses are once again breathing oxygen. They're once again able to resuscitate their operations, and they're once again participating in the procurement opportunities that are available in government. Thirdly, she made a number of outlandish claims in relation to VAT and misapplication of VAT, and said that we remove VAT, but in some cases people are still charging VAT. Let me say publicly that if Annette Ferguson has any invoice on which VAT is being charged, on an item that VAT should not be charged, I invite her to bring that invoice to the attention of myself or of the GRA, and we would be very happy to have those cases, every single case that she brings to our attention, investigated. But I'm glad that she raised the VAT matter, because in raising the VAT matter, she highlights the fact that when they were in government, they deliberately implemented VAT, introduced VAT on a wide range of items that we had zero rated, putting VAT on many of those items, or moving those items to exempt status rather than zero rated status, and therefore deliberately making those items more expensive. Since we came back into government, we have taken off VAT off of all of the basic construction materials, for example, construction inputs and construction materials that are necessary for construction of homes. That action alone has made home ownership more affordable. She raised a number of other points, like, for example, dismissed the fact that we raised the cost of borrowing. It is the APNU AFC that failed to have any single initiative to reduce the effective cost of the effective interest rate. And in fact, they reversed some of the measures that we had in place, like, for example, the mortgage interest relief arrangement, which we put in place with a ceiling of $30 million per mortgage. They slashed that ceiling by a half, therefore slashing the number of eligible recipients and the extent to which recipients can benefit. Since we came back into government, we reinstated that benefit. We increased the ceiling on the low-income housing window. We increased the NBS ceiling. We worked with the banks and the NBS to reduce the interest rate, so that the interest rate came down from over 6% now to just over 3%. That matters to the cost of financing. We restored jobs. We put people back in work. We restored incomes. Today, 60,000 persons who were not working in 2020 are once again working. They now have or are working for the first time. They now have an income. And on the basis of that income, they're able to pay for their low-income house lot, or they're able to go to the bank, get a loan, and be able to pay for their low-income house lot, or their low-income home, or their middle-income home. We put people back in work. We restored an investment environment that would attract private investment to create jobs. The APNU did exactly the opposite. And so I simply want to make the point that we are glad that we had an opportunity to debate this issue, because it provided us with an opportunity to show how completely anti-working class and anti-people the APNU AFC's policies were in the housing sector, but that is also reflected and replicated across every other sector. And in contrast, how pro-PPP, how pro-people, and in contrast, how pro-people, and in particular pro-working people, the PPP's policies are. And so the debate provided us with an opportunity to show that contrast and to highlight that contrast. And it says a lot that their big suggestion in relation to the housing program is to set up a committee. Having been in government, having been in opposition, you would think that they would have considered this matter carefully enough to have at least one concrete idea of their own to improve access to house lots, instead of saying, or offering to the people of Guyana, their big solution is to set up a committee. Well, they can feel free to set up their committee if they want, but our solution is to continue to deliver goods and services to the people of Guyana, and in particular in the housing sector. We will continue to deliver an accelerated housing program, so more house lots are available and that they are more affordable to the Guyanese people, and that more Guyanese people are in work, earning incomes, and therefore can be better able to afford their own homes. And our ultimate ambition and aspiration is to have every single Guyanese family of working age to be able to afford their own home. And we're going to work diligently until we get to that point. So we're grateful that we had the debate, and thank you very much for all of you who tuned in.